The issue started in 2006 when ABC News television program Lateline made a claim of rampaging sexual abuse in Mutijulu, a small Aboriginal community near the heart of Uluru. The segment includes an interview with an anonymous man who claims to be a youth worker, who reported sexual slavery, abuse, and violence towards women and children within the community. This, however, was proven to be greatly exaggerated and mostly untrue.
You know, you can't stand up and watch all these things. Now, go Korea, Korea, Angara, Orin, Malabajo. Usual, of you know. Can't believe it, usual. It's more among American. You know, yeah, it's like a mammo.
But the damage was done, and the news became a public frenzy.
Text here, Tony, and I do acknowledge your role in the intervention. I mean, it was your show.
I had no role in the intervention.
Oh, no,
that was done by a government.
No, but it was yours.
An investigation into the protection of Aboriginal children from sexual abuse was launched by the Northern Territory Board of Inquiry. The findings were then published in the document known as the Little Children Are Sacred Report. According to the report, seeing the lack of response from the Northern Territory government, PM John Howard stepped in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr Brough and I have called this news conference to announce a number of major measures to deal with what we can only describe as a national emergency in relation to the abuse of children in Indigenous communities in the Northern Territory.
The Howard government declared the issue a national emergency and proceeded to introduce a set of policies in response to the Little Children Are Sacred report. This includes the policy is effective for 73 prescribed Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory and was met with a wide range of response, both positive and negative. On one hand, supporters of the policy say that immediate actions must be taken to manage the situation as it is a national emergency.
And with this intervention, yes, I support it.
We want all the kids to attend school and learn how to behave themselves.
And that the measures taken are required by international laws. On the other hand, many Indigenous people have objected to the policy. They have expressed concerns that the policy did not actually address the underlying issue that is the root of the problem, which is sexual abuse and violence. Furthermore, the policy also violates the human rights of Indigenous Australians as it disempowered and ignored the knowledge of local people, and only addressed 2 of the 97 recommendations in the Little Children Are Sacred report.
People, and I've spoken to so many people came into their communities. They didn't ask to come in, they imposed themselves on Aboriginal people. It's like, because you are black in this country, you can't be good enough to participate. And it's like so long, so many times now, Aboriginal people are just being told and dictated how they will run and how they're going to run their life.
The policy have received criticisms from the United Nations. A notable problem is that many aspects of the intervention is deemed racially discriminatory against Aboriginal Australians, along with violating their basic human rights. For the intervention to happen, the government has suspended the Racial Discrimination Act, and to be singled out by laws on the basis of race have left many felt excluded and at odds with the government.
Totally unacceptable for any government to suggest that they have to suspend the normal protections that all peoples of Australia enjoy.
The laws are harshly enforced, leaving many feeling helpless due to being denied control over their own life.
In a lot of ways, it's still taken away our rights. It's taken our rights away as individuals and as people.
Years passed, and it was time to evaluate the results of the intervention. In 2015, the Abbott's government have reviewed the outcomes of the intervention, and the result is profoundly disappointing. Targets set out by the government were missed, and if anything, the situation seems to have gotten worse. School attendance have not increased, and issues such as sexual assault and violence have not improved. The rate of self-harm and suicide in youth have spiked, along with a large increase in Aboriginal people in prison. Little impacts were made in fixing the issue of overcrowding, and income management have only made life for many Aboriginal families harder.
That intervention would bring, on the health side, education side, housing, and that wasn't dealt with properly. It leaves us feeling that we're helpless, and there's no support there whatsoever. I mean, that is one of the promises that intervention, these things would be avoided, the sexual assault and crimes and violence and whatnot.
The failure of the intervention points to the lack of consultation with Aboriginal communities. The solution that the government have provided have not fixed the problem, but also sends a message to Aboriginal people that they are incapable of solving the issue themselves.
They should be coming to us, door knocking and asking us how we feel about the intervention.
If we were going to be saving the children, we couldn't have any of the recommendations about talking to the Aboriginal organisations or consulting Aboriginal people or even asking the Aboriginal family.
And we see it far too often, and you can't have a relationship if you're not going to have everyone working and walking together.
This further reinforced and internalized the culture of victim blaming, which is not a new thing in Australian Aboriginal history. The intervention's aim was to provide protection, education, and improvements for children, yet none of which were achieved. While with good intention, the program was counterproductive and made little impacts upon the living conditions of Aboriginal people. Many have come to resent the intervention and have demanded for changes to be made, along with an apology from the government.
It was the Australian Army who came and said sorry, and that was nearly 9 years later they came and said sorry.
Yeah, it would have been nice if the government came back and said sorry.
Despite Australia striving for reconciliation, the intervention is another policy for Indigenous Australians that lacks consideration and cooperation, just like its many predecessors. This pattern is reflective of the Australian government's overall position towards Indigenous affairs, and many things about it need to be changed if we are truly seeking reconciliation.
What I want to do is see a Prime Minister who is prepared to sit down in the red dirt, spend half a day talking to people in communities that are affected, listening, not cutting across, but listening to the voices.
But until then, the intervention will remain as Australia's most costly and damaging political stunt, and the scar left by it will continue to be felt by the people and communities it affects.